What's up guys, Wolf here. Welcome to another Division 2 video. We have received an update today. You guys will need to download it when you log into the game. And there were quite a few changes. Check out the patch notes if you want to have a look. I will leave a link down below. But we finally got a fix to the Catalyst Exotic Mask. And this mask is very powerful and will change a lot of your meta setups. So in this video, I'm going to showcase the new meta for the Backfire. This Backfire Striker build will allow you to absolutely beam through any content in the game, solo or PvE. Huge amounts of critical hit damage, and the combination of Backfire and Catalyst works perfectly. We put ourselves on the bleed, then we get double the stacks of the mask, and we're able to keep the stacks most of the time. 24% weapon damage, and there's some other utilities there as well. So Legendary also, you can run into a mission and push on Legendary, stack it up using the Backfire or the Banshee Pulse or whatever status effect skill you wish. As long as we can take some bleed damage, which is easy, just don't go too far spec into hazard or bleed resistance, you can get the Catalyst Mask procced pretty much fully all the time. It depends on your playstyle and what skills you want to be using. But pushing enemies on Legendary, the amount of damage we can do is just next level. And this is because we get more critical hit chance now with the global modifiers. So I recommend playing with global modifiers, guys. Make sure you get them farmed, unlocked, because we can get over 60% crit chance now most of the time, which is why the Backfire is so good with 200% critical hit damage. And it just got stronger because of the exotic mask. It's an absolute beast of a setup, and I'm sure you guys can tell from the gameplay how much damage you can do. Imagine on like challenging or heroic, everything in the game will be an absolute breeze. So let us take a look at the setup. So first and foremost, the Catalyst Mask. This mask is obtainable from doing the final mission in Brooklyn. It has a chance to drop from the Flying Marauder boss, the drone, the big drone, the final mission of Brooklyn. It's the BTSU one. So make sure you guys go and try and farm that. There's a very small chance of actually getting the mask. So let's take a look. I'll show you exactly which mission it is. So go towards the end of the mission. It took me like 30 tries to get it. It's called Army Terminal in Brooklyn. So go and farm this mission. And then as soon as you kill the robot marauder, that flying drone, the big drone boss, it should drop for you, hopefully. So this mask is very powerful because 24% damage is quite significant. Now keep in mind, Coyote's mask has limitations for the crit damage. We can get 25%, but that's only crit damage. Now obviously, crit damage is very powerful right now, like I said, but weapon damage is going to be insane, and the utility of the mask is a lot more going on than just damage. And also, with the Backfire, there are diminishing returns with crit damage, hence why I've got a Sokolov and not a Grupo with this build, because we do way too much damage now. And also the fact that there's diminishing returns on crit damage, the game tries to make up for the amount of crit we can get because the Backfire gives 200%. So the Catalyst Mask, let's take a look. So dealing and receiving status effects, and it lists here, builds stacks. So 12 stacks when the bar is filled. We get 2% weapon damage and 2% status effects. Very good, great utility from the status effects, especially if you spec into that or you use a skill like I'm using. I'm using the Gunner Specs specialization skill called the Banshee Pulse, which disorientates. As you can see, just make sure it's on the list, disorient. And this is good because we can get it stacked multiple ways. The reason why I can keep this up with the amount of hazard protection I've got, which is important because we don't want to take too much damage from the Backfire, because the Backfire combination with this is strong. Because as you guys can see, being affected by status effects, which is going to be the bleed from the Backfire. If you guys didn't know, when you shoot and you reload the Backfire, you take bleed damage. So we get extra stacks a second. So when we actually, and this needs to be within 25 meters. So when we affect an enemy, it's only 1 stack per second. So it's really good to take the status effect. Now you can take it from other ways, but the bleed is quite strong. So we want to have some sort of hazard protection. I would say between 50% to 65%. That's kind of the sweet spot. It depends. What I've noticed is I have got the maximum amount I recommend because I can proc it with my skill. I can also proc it with the Backfire. You can even just with a decoy, not using any other status effect, just with the Backfire, with the amount of status effect I have got, I can bleed and then it won't fill it fully. But when I shoot again and reload, then it keeps going and it's pretty much full as long as I'm shooting. Problem is with this global modifier, when you shoot the enemies with the blue symbols above their heads, you'll get more hazard protection. So sometimes you may be fully protected from the bleed, which is not what we want. So you really got to try and gauge for yourself what skills you use, how you're going to proc it, and try and just lower your hazard. I'm still practicing that because obviously this mask has just been fixed. I don't know how people have posted build videos with a mask that doesn't work, but now it actually works, so I can test and I'll update you guys. But from what I've checked for the last hour or two, is that my hazard protection is the maximum you want, because you will take a lot of damage. So keep that in mind. You've got to try and balance it out. So that's why this is so good with the backfire. So we also get bonus armor and reload speed, which is really nice, and we can ADS while burning. So it's a very good mask, comes with status effect and hazard protection. So like I said before, the backfire SMG is really good because we get 200% crit damage and we can get more than 60% crit chance. So crit damage is very powerful. Just keep in mind, like I said before, diminishing returns is something you got to keep in mind. So something you got to think about. So dealing damage to an enemy adds a stack of 2% critical hit damage up to 100. So that's 200% crit damage. But you bleed, and it does take quite a bit of damage. So we want to bleed, but not too much. So it's up to you guys to gauge it. Now, I would recommend no more than 65% hazard. You can go for less. I'll probably end up, I would imagine, going somewhere between 50 to 55% from my testing so far. I think I would be happy with that. You can even go for more. It just depends how often you can proc your status effects and how much, it is RNG with how much hazard you actually get and how many blues you have on your build as well, because the globe modifiers. So I would recommend no more than 65%. Go for even less than that. Just try and see for yourself when you're playing the game. If you're not going to be having globe modifiers on, you're probably going to have to add more hazard because it's going to scale down. And you're probably going to have to increase your crit chance, because I'm getting crit chance from other ways. So I've got 57, so I'll be able to go way over 60%, even 100% sometimes when I proc my ult. 120 plus 200%. So the stats are very good. So the combination, the synergy of the Catalyst mask and the backfire is very good. It's undeniable right now. It's very strong. There are other ways to proc the mask, and I will be making different builds in the future. Banshee Pulse from the Gunner spec. I get armor on kill, and I can proc this. Very strong. I didn't have mods in some of the gameplay because I forgot to put them on. But this, you got to charge it for a little bit, and then you expel it, and it does some great disorientation. You can disorientate multiple enemies, therefore proccing the mask a bit faster. But remember, it's only a second, so if you only shoot one enemy, it'll take a while. So with this setup, I've gone for the Striker 4-piece. Best damage build in the game, by far. I recommend it. I've got 2 blues, which is important to take note because let's take a look at the modifiers. Attack Link, this is really good. Assault Link, we can get 100% crit chance. Protection from elites. Hazard protection, 7.5 for each stamina tier, so keep that in mind. Also more crit damage here. So when we take a look at strikers, I've got 2 blues, so I'm getting a little bit more hazard protection. That's how I've got the number I've got. Also the Shade Tech watch level, just keep that in mind. But the Striker 4-piece is really good. Hunter's Fury works well. You can also utilize it, disorientate. But the problem is the Hunter's Fury backpack isn't very strong because the backpack bonus isn't great. But Striker is still going to be the best. Huge amounts of damage. But you can switch it up. You can use, if you wish, Hunter's Fury, but Striker is going to be the general choice. And it's definitely the meta. Because you're also not limited to range, because you can actually beam with the backfire. It's got pretty decent accuracy, as I mentioned in my Visionario version of this build. So the Striker's 4-piece, it's up to you how much hazard you put on each piece. Now, I have chosen Sokolov. Why? Because let's just take a look. This is a little bit confusing, but I'm going to try explain it. So with the Grupo piece, you get 13% crit damage. With this, you only get 10% SMG damage. The crit damage is better because we can crit more often at the time, so we'll be getting slightly more damage. That is the case, but when we're using the backfire, there's diminishing returns because it's got so much crit damage. So you end up getting more damage per crit with the Sokolov, which isn't normal because of the diminishing returns. So what I've learned is Sokolov is the way to go. It doesn't matter. The damage is very minimal. So you use Sokolov, Grupo, Cheska, Jarl, if you've got one, doesn't matter. But Sokolov will be the best for damage. So hazard, critical hit damage. I've got critical hit damage modification here. The SMG damage is really good the way that it scales and obliterates with my high crit chance. Make sure your crit chance is no less than 54%. So obliterates. I've got Hasbro crit damage. And my mask modification is going to be critical hit damage. Backpack mod is also critical hit damage. So the holster, I've got critical hit chance, knee pads, crit damage, gloves, hazard, and also the backpack hazard. It's up to you. I probably will end up re-rolling maybe Hazard away and keeping the amount of blues I've got. I think 2 blues is a good amount, but it's really up to you to gauge in the gameplay. I'm sure you saw that I have some downtime. That's just because sometimes I get a lot of Hazard from killing the blue guys. So it depends on the mission and the situation. But you also do take a lot of bleed damage. But the armor on kill, that's why Gunner is quite important with this. So that's why I recommend using Gunner. But I hope you guys did enjoy the explanation and the build. Now you've had a look at the stats. The secondary Streamline Lexington, it doesn't matter. Orbit Pistol, that's on you. Banshee Pulse, Shield, you can go for whatever you want. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.